Hey guys, welcome back to WD18, the Watford fans channel. It is me, Shane, here for another preview. This time the Golden Boys head to the Etihad Stadium on Saturday to take on Manchester City in what is a 5:30 kickoff live on BT Sports. Before we get on to the preview, let's have a bit of a recap in regards to our last game, which was a pulsating 2-1 victory against Leicester City at Vicarage Road. A relatively ordinary game, really. If I'm honest, Watford made a very early start. Troy heading in from a fantastic cross by Gerard Deulofeu. Watford then did the typical sitting back, holding on, really, not really creating a whole lot more. And ultimately, Leicester were allowed back into the game. It was a very, very classy finish by Jamie Vardy. 1-1, and the game looked destined for a draw. A game that I thought Watford really should be looking to win, and in the realms of miracles, Watford did win it. It was a fantastic ball through over the top by Troy Deeney. Andre Gray, one-on-one with the keeper, kept his composure and finished superbly to give Watford a 2-1 win and a massive 3 points as well. As I said in the build-up to the Leicester game, it was a game that I felt as if we needed to win, and we're at the stage of the season now, early March, where people start looking at the run-in for a lot of clubs, etc. There's still that fight for the seventh spot. Of course, you've still got the title race going on and the whole relegation battle as well at the bottom. So it's crucial now that Watford start picking up the points. Of course, a lot of Premier League pundits will look at it, will look at Watford and will think there's going to be a distraction because of the FA Cup, and of course that's next weekend, and for me that's not a distraction. That is an absolutely huge opportunity for us to potentially get some silverware, I personally think. It's the best chance we are going to have, I think, in quite a while, really. But more about that game later on this week. So let us, of course, get into a little bit of team news now then for Watford. And the team news is there is no team news because Kiko Femenier has returned from illness, which means Javi Gracia has a fully fit squad to choose from. In some respects, that's actually great. In other respects, it's actually quite interesting because he now has a full set of players to choose from, which means his decisions are going to be even more interesting. I'm not sure what kind of team will start against Manchester City. I think a lot of fans calling for players to be rested ahead of the FA Cup quarter-final. My only concern about that, though, is that it is a week away. It's not as if we've played this game on Wednesday night and the quarter-finals on a Saturday. If that was the case, then absolutely I'd chuck out under 23, frankly, under 12's side if that were me. But I don't think Javi's the kind of guy to go off and rest a ton of players. First of all, this isn't like the early rounds of the FA Cup, and secondly, it's still a league game, and I think Javi will be wanting to take it as seriously as possible, despite and regardless as to who the opposition is. And with that in mind, I'm going to give you a bit of a predicted lineup. Please don't take this at face value. This is just what I think. This is the 1 week where I've actually genuinely had to sit and have a bit of a think about what I think the team might be. Because I simply don't know. It could be very similar to this. It could be nothing like this. It could be a fully fit, full strength 11, really. And quite frankly, again against City at the Etihad, we have got nothing to lose, really, except injuries to key players, which I think is what a lot of fans have been saying. Let's rest players, and I get it from that perspective. But I'm just not sure Javi's in that kind of mindset necessarily. So let's start off in goal. There's been a lot of talk about who might be in goal for next Saturday. I want it to be Ben Foster, but I just have a very sneaky feeling Gomez might get the goalkeeper jersey for next Saturday. But regardless, I would start Foster for Manchester City. I think he could be crucial in potentially even trying to keep the score down. Back four for me, Kiko Femenier comes in. The reason I say that is because he's been out, so I think he needs some vital game minutes in this one before eventually then going off and starting against Palace next week. Two centre-backs, Kabasele, Mariappa, Cathcart, I'd give Cathcart the rest for the weekend. Holobas left back, definitely. I think looking at who he may well be up against, you've got Raheem Sterling potentially out on the right-hand side. I don't fancy Adam Messina after he was absolutely skinned alive by Mohamed Salah, I think it might have been, or actually Salah and Mane. Actually, all of them, to be honest. Midfielders, I would change both of our midfielders, though, for the weekend. Doucouré Capoue, I think, should take a back seat. I would go Cleverley and Chalobah in there. Left side of midfield for me, I would put Domingos Quina. A lot of fans call for him actually to start against Leicester. Ultimately, we went there with Pereira, who had yet another game where he was absolutely anonymous. And for Domingos Quina, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think this is a huge weekend for him. Because, yeah, alright, he could start against City, but you should look at this as an audition, potentially, for an FA Cup quarter-final. If he puts in a shift, I'd have no problem with him starting against Palace, really. Looking at our left side of midfield, I don't see very many options out there. Alright, you've got Sema, you know... He's one of the most one-footed players I think I've ever seen. Pereira just not doing it for us at the moment. There's obviously the big question mark around Peñaranda. We spent so much time and effort, you know, trying to get his work permit. Where is it? Where is he? How has he only got like, I don't know, 70, 80 minutes against Woking under his belt? He should be getting more. Is there a fitness issue there? You know, it's frustrating. Frankly, the only other option out there, of course, is Isaac's Success, but I think Javi sees him more as a striker. Right side of midfield for me, I carry on with Will Hughes. I thought he's been signs of recovery, really, in his form. And up top, I would still go with Andre Gray and Troy Deeney. I think that might change, though. I would maybe give Troy the weekend off to ensure he's in prime form. Let us now move on and have a bit of a chat about our opponents, Manchester City. Now, they are, of course, in very good form. Their last 5 games have seen them pick up 4 wins. Of course, the game last weekend against Bournemouth, very much a very patient game for Pep Guardiola's men. Bournemouth didn't play very well. City weren't really on it, but they managed to get the 1-0 win. Crucial for them, of course, to get 3 points. They picked up a 1-0 win at home to West Ham as well. The only draw, of course, was the 0-0 draw in the Carabao Cup final, but they managed to win that on penalties. So in actual fact, in some respect, you could say they've won their last 5 games, including the Champions League game as well against Schalke. Winning that one 3-2, so you would argue City getting 3 away goals is probably enough for them. And the reason why I say that, of course, is because the second leg is this week. I think it's Tuesday night is actually when the second leg is. So, annoyingly, in some respects, I'd maybe kind of hope now in hindsight that City had something to do really in that game, because that may well have impacted on the selection for the game on Saturday. But that is not the case. City have been in fantastic form as well, of course. They gave us a fantastic game at Vicarage Road earlier on in the season, a 2-1 win. Leroy Sané, Riyad Mahrez running the show for them. We did manage to initiate something of a late fight back, of course, Doucouré pulling a goal back for us, and Troy Deeney with a header from a corner that, you know, on another day could have just flown into the back of the net. It didn't do. We lost that game 2-1, but we were always in the game, I think, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for on Saturday. But I am very wary of City's quality, and I got almost slightly overexcited about playing Liverpool, and you know, look what happened there. I mean, it was an embarrassing performance really from Watford. You know, giving Liverpool's right backs, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson, so much time to cross the ball into the likes of Mane, cross the ball into the likes of Van Dijk, who pretty much doubled his goal tally actually on that night. So need to just be defensively alert really, and I just think at times this season our defence has been maybe a little bit sluggish, a little bit off its game really. That's what kind of worries me, I guess, going into this game. Of course, you know, we have already lost 5 to Liverpool. City, people say I personally think they're looking far more resurgent than what they previously were. Of course, they are ahead in the Premier League table by only just 1 point. They play before Liverpool as well. It's a big chance for them to increase that gap to 4, at least for a few hours anyway. Let us go on and have a bit of a chat then about their team news. Now, unlike Watford, they actually do have injuries, which is helpful for us, of course. John Stones, Kevin De Bruyne, Fernandinho and Aymeric Laporte are all out injured for Manchester City. All these players are not going to be back until after the international break now, so there will be no chance, of course, of them playing in their quarter-final next Saturday as Man City head to Swansea. But that is actually quite good for us. I think the one player, I look at those injured players, John Stones, Kevin De Bruyne, Fernandinho and Aymeric Laporte. The one player that really stands out to me is Fernandinho, because he's a guy I've seen whenever I've seen City games this season, he's the guy who's absolutely bossing that midfield, and I think the fact that he's out is actually a good thing. They don't really have their motor engine really running in that midfield. Kevin De Bruyne, yeah, very, very dangerous, but I would argue City have far more potent players on the pitch. It's not just De Bruyne, one guy, and Aguero, one guy who can get the goals. They've got far, far superior. I mean, oh my god! I mean, you look at the likes of maybe Leroy Sané, Riyad Mahrez. I pick out those two because they're the two that caused us the damage at Vicarage Road. You've got Raheem Sterling, you've got Sergio Aguero as well, Gabriel Jesus, Ilkay Gundogan as well in that midfield. He's the kind of guy that can quite easily put in a shift as well if he needs to. So they've definitely got the players in that respect. Going on, having a bit of a chat about Manchester City, of course. Sergio Aguero has 96 Premier League goals for City at the Etihad. If he gets one more, it will take him level with in third with Alan Shearer's 97 at St James's Park. For the most goals at one venue in the competition, Aguero does tend to actually have quite a good scoring record against Watford. I know he scored there last season at the Etihad against us. Scored as well when they beat us 6-0 at Vicarage Road. So he enjoys playing us as well. But of course, there is we do have our own striker as well, and that is of course Troy Deeney, and alongside Aguero with 10, Troy Deeney has been involved in actually the most number of goals in 2019. He scored 5 times, provided 3 assists as well. Sorry, no, that's 8. Sorry, I should make that very clear. Troy Deeney has been involved in 8 goals, scoring 5 times, 3 assists. Aguero is the guy with the highest; he has 10 as well. So, it could be a very interesting game. I don't see Troy starting the game though. From my predicted lineup, I think we'd be better off just giving him the weekend off. And some people out there might think, oh well, Troy doesn't start. Do Watford get the result? And all that stuff. I just think for me, this weekend isn't not about getting a result. It's about damage limitation and ensuring we don't get injuries to key players for what is an absolutely mammoth game against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup quarter-final. As I say, guys, I'm gonna leave this preview here by quite simply saying this very last thing, and that is keep the scoreline low, i.e. I'd say below 4 personally, below 4, and no injuries to key players as well. If we're able to nick a goal or 2, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. But the key thing at about 7:30 on a Saturday night when I'm watching the game, I do not want to see a single player go off injured.